All right, so now that you've learned some of the basics of composition and figuring out what that perspective is, another huge player in this whole thing is what lens are you shooting on? Are you shooting with a wide-angle lens, a normal maybe 50mm lens, or a telephoto lens? And we've compiled a good amount of examples for you to sort of show the difference between these different lenses. As you can see on the wide-angle lens, typically things are more in focus, you're able to see a little bit more, but a really great way to use a wide-angle lens is getting up close and personal. Some of my favorite photos are portraits taken with a wide-angle lens. They add this sort of very personal, very close feel, but it still allows you to have that depth of field to make it a very cinematic almost looking shot. On the other end of the spectrum is telephoto lenses. And this is where you're really zooming in and honing the audience's eyes onto one thing. You're sort of focusing in on a specific subject. And the telephoto is really great for crushing the backgrounds, making everything out of focus except that one thing you want in focus. And this again, when it comes to perspective, framing your background, it adds another layer to it, because all of a sudden your background is typically more of a blurred or out of focus image, and you get a lot more colors with this. You can create sort of a cool contrast by making everything out of focus. You can see in this shot, for example, that all you can see really is the person's face. Everything in the background is completely out of focus, but you really focus in on the character. You're really focused on their eyes and their features opposed to anything else in the background. So depending on the lens you have, make sure you always practice between using the wide angle, using the telephoto. Different people have different preferences on what they like to use. Personally, I love my 85mm. Some people, they love their 24mm. So it's really something of personal preference and what type of photos you want to take. One additional thing I wanted to throw in there is that you don't always need to take a wide angle lens to take a wide shot and a telephoto lens to take a close-up shot. It's actually sometimes better to try the reverse. Take a close-up shot with a wide-angle lens, and then to go take that big landscape shot or take a big wide shot, try taking a telephoto. The biggest difference is that you have to move. Instead of making your lens do all the work, you should move your perspective. Another practice for this is using a prime lens or a fixed focal length, and this is where your lens doesn't zoom. You can only use that one focal length, and so you really have to move to get the shot you want to get. One of my favorite lenses, the 85mm, is a telephoto lens, but I'll use that for close-up photography, I'll use that for landscape photography, I'll use that for almost anything. The biggest factor is I have to move myself. I have to go find the angle, the perspective, the background that's going to work for that specific focal length. So go test out, see what lens you have. A lot of kit lenses are great because they have a wide range of focal lengths. And yeah, find which focal length you prefer and which one you really like.